material for the feast of first fruit, the covenant, the gathering, the Ruach HaKodesh, the harvest, restoration, the story from Adam to Revelations, 50-day completion, covenant renewal, first fruit to Yahuwah, the final chapter of this series as we get ready to partake in his most set apart, Kadosh, gathering. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 16. 3 times a year, all your males appear before Yahuwah, your Elohim, in the place which he chooses, at the festival of Massah, and at the festival of Shabu'u, and at the festival of Sukkot. And none should appear before Yahuwah empty-handed. No. There are 3 times all males appear before Yahuwah: the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles. Exodus chapter 34, verse 22 and 23. And perform the festival of Shabu'u for yourself, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the festival of ingathering at the turn of the year. 3 times in the year, all your men are to appear before the Master, Yahuwah, the Elohim of Yasharah. Jubilees chapter 2, verse 8 through 10. These 4 great works Yahuwah created on the 3rd day, and on the 4th day he created the sun and the moon and the stars, and set them in the firmament of the Shamayim to give light upon all the earth, and to rule over the day and the night, and divide the light from the darkness. And Yahuwah appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth for days, and for Shabbats, and for months, and for feasts, and for years, and for Shabbats of years, and for jubilees, and for all seasons of the years. And it divided the light from the darkness, and for prosperity, that all things may prosper which shoot and grow on the earth. The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 14. Luminaries for appointed times. And Elohim said, let lights come to be in the expanse of the Shamayim, to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times, and for days and years. Pentecost in the Second Temple era. First fruit offering at Pentecost. Antiquity of the Jews. Book 3, chapter 10, section 6 and 7. When a week of weeks has passed over after this sacrifice, which weeks contain 49 days, on the 15th day, which is Pentecost, but it is called by the Hebrews Shabu'u, which signifies Pentecost, they bring to Yahuwah a loaf made of wheat flour, of 2 deals with leaven. And for sacrifice they bring 2 lambs. And when they have only presented them to Yahuwah, they are made ready for supper for the priest. Nor is it permitted to leave anything of them to the day following. They also slay 3 bullocks for a burnt offering, and 2 rams, and 14 lambs, and 2 kids of the goats for crimes. Nor is there any one of the festival, but in it they offer burnt offerings. They also allow themselves to rest on every one of them. Accordingly, the law prescribes in them all what kinds they are to sacrifice, and how they are to rest entirely, and must slay sacrifices in order to feast upon them. However, out of the common charges, baked bread was set on the table of showbread without leaven, of 24 tenth deals of flour, for so much is spent upon the bread. 2 heaps of these were baked. They were taken the day before the Shabbat, but were brought into the set-apart place on the morning of the Shabbat, and set upon the set-apart table. 6 on an heap, 1 loaf still standing over against another, where 2 golden cups full of frankincense were also set upon them. And there they remained till another Shabbat, and then other loaves were brought in their stead. While their loaves were given to the priests for their food, and the frankincense was burnt in that sacred fire, wherein all their offerings were burnt also, and so other frankincense was set upon the loaves instead of what was there before. The high priest also, of his own charges, offered a sacrifice, and that twice every day. It was made of flour, mingled with oil, and gently baked by the fire. The quantity was 1/10 deal of flour. He brought the half of it to the fire in the morning, and the other half at night. The War of the Jews, Book 2, Chapter 3, Section 1. Now before Caesar had determined anything about these affairs, Malchus, Arushalad's mother, fell sick and died. Letters also were brought out of Syria and Varus about a revolt of the Jews. These were 14 by Varus, who accordingly after Archelaus was sailed, went up to Jerusalem to restrain the promoters of the sedition, since it was the manifest that the nation would not be at rest. So he left one of those legions which he brought with him out of Syria in the city, and went himself to Antioch. But Sabinus came after he was gone, and gave them an occasion of making innovations. For he compelled the keepers of the citadels to deliver them up to him, and made a bitter search after the king's money, as depending not only on the soldiers which were left by Varus, but on the multitude of his own servants, all which he armed and used as the instruments of his covetousness. Now when that feast, which was observed after 7 weeks, in which the Jews called Pentecost, the 50th day, was at hand, its name being taken from the number of the days after the Passover, the people got together, but not on account of the accustomed divine worship, but of the indignation they had at the present state of affairs. Wherefore an immense multitude ran together out of Galilee, and Idumea, and Jericho, and Perea, that was beyond Jordan. But the people that naturally belonged to Judea itself were above the rest, both in numbers and in the accuracy of the man. So they distribute themselves into 3 parts, and pitched their camps in 3 places, one at the north side of the temple, another at the south side by the hippodrome, and the third part were in the palace on the west. So they lay around about the Romans on every side and besieged them. Now Sidonius was affrighted both at their multitude and at their courage, and sent messengers to Varus continually, and besought him to come to his succor quickly, for that if he delayed, his legion would be cut to pieces. As for Sabarius himself, he got up to the highest tower of the fortress, which was called Phasaelus. It is of the same name with Herod's brothers, who was destroyed by the Persians. And then he made signs to the soldiers at that legion to attack the enemy. For his astonishment was so great that he durst not go down to his own men. Hereupon the soldiers were prevailed upon, and leaped out into the temple, and fought a terrible battle with the Jews, in which while there were none over their heads to distress them, they were too hard for them by their skill, and the others want of skill in war. But when once many of the Jews had gotten up to the top of the clusters, and threw their darts downwards upon the head of the Romans, there were a great many of them destroyed. Nor was it easy to avenge themselves upon those that threw their weapons from on high. Nor was it more easy for them to sustain those who came to fight them hand to hand. Since therefore the Romans were scarcely afflicted by both these circumstances, they set fire to the clusters, which were works to be admired, both on account of their magnitude and costliness. Whereupon those that were above them were presently encompassed with the flame, and many of them perished therein. As many of them also were destroyed by the enemy, who came suddenly upon them. Some of them also threw themselves down from the walls backwards, and some there were who, from the desperate condition they were in, prevented the fire by killing themselves with their own sword. But so many of them as crept out from the walls and came upon the Romans were easily mastered by them, by reason of the astonishment they were under, until the last same of the Jews being destroyed, and others dispersed by the terror they were in. The soldiers fell upon the treasures of Yahuwah, which was now deserted, and plundered about 400 talents, of which some Saberinus got together all that was not carried away by the soldiers. However, the destruction of the works about the temple and of the men occasioned a much greater number, and those of a more warlike sort to get together to oppose the Romans. These encompassed the palace round, and threatened to delay all that were in it, unless they went their ways quickly. For they promised that Sabinus should come to no harm, if he would go out with his legions. There were also a great many of the king's party who deserted the Romans and assisted the Jews. Yet did the most warlike body of them all, who were 3,000 of the men of Septa, go over to the Romans. Rufus also, and Gratus, their captains, did the same. Gratus having the fact of the king's party under him, and Rufus the horse, each of whom, even without the forces under them, were of great weight, on account of their strength and wisdom, which turned the scales in war. Now the Jews in the siege, and tried to break down walls of the fortress, and cried out to Sabinus and his party, that they should go their way and not brave a hindrance to them. Now they hoped after a long time to recover that ancient liberty which their forefathers had enjoyed. Sabinus indeed was well contented to get out of the danger he was in, but he distrusted the assurances the Jews gave him, and suspected such gentle treatment was but a bait laid as a snare for them. This consideration, together with the hopes he had of succor from Verus, made him bear the siege still longer.